a much bigger message for a bigger audience and more than just facial differences in hearing aids. So like, well, how can we include more kids in this story? When I was 16 years old, my older sister got up out of her wheelchair and walked. Basically, my life story always starts with my older sister was sick and my little sister was a baby, and I was the middle child who was often forgotten. Not forgotten, but in the shadows. And even though like my older sister was sick and that was a defining part of our childhood, it really didn't define who she was. To me, she was always just a normal kid who happened to use a wheelchair. And so I think something that happened that kind of normalized that for us, or a way that helped normalize that, was my mom bought a lot of children's books that had characters who are in wheelchairs. And I didn't realize that I didn't know that was what was happening until I was an adult and started buying my own children's books. And I was like, oh, hey, the story of Heidi. I had that book when I was a kid. So I'm buying books for my kids that I remember from my childhood. And I'm like, oh, there's a person with a wheelchair and a person with a wheelchair. And I think my mom did this intentionally. But it was so normal to us that we didn't realize that she probably did that intentionally. But she was, in fact, normalizing that for us, that we saw, my sister saw herself in those stories. And a really powerful story that I just read to my kids recently is the story of Heidi, which is a classic, so you've probably read it. But she has a friend, Clara, who's in a wheelchair. And, Heidi just really sees her as a normal kid as well, and like, come on, like, you should be able to play with me, let's go do stuff. And she really encourages her. And as they're out in the countryside with Heidi's grandpa, the fresh air and the sunshine and the raw goat's milk and whatever, Clara gets healthy and is able to get up out of her wheelchair and walk. And so then when her dad came to pick her up, she walked to meet him. And so reading that to my kids, I was like, whoa, because that is my sister's story. Like, we were at youth group and one of our friends is like, hey, let's pray for Hannah for the 50 bajillionth time, because she's kind of like a local celebrity. This was before Facebook, so you only knew the people in your local community. And she was like the one person I knew. She was in a wheelchair. There was a couple other kids who probably had autism. I don't know if that was an official diagnosis back then even. But for the most part, it's like she was a celebrity and everyone was always praying for her all the time to like be healed. So yeah, that day at youth group, we're like, let's pray for her again. And she got up and walked. So then when my mom came to pick us up, she stood up and like nobody left youth group. Youth group ended, all the parents are parked outside and everyone is just waiting. And so my mom came to the door, and then my sister walked to meet her. And then I don't remember what happened after that, but it was really powerful. My mom cried. Everyone cries. So that was a really powerful experience for us. And I think reading stories like Heidi probably inspired hope in my sister as well. Yeah, so fast forward to adulthood, I met this guy named Dwayne, who looked a little bit different. But as I got to know him, he's a great guy and great sense of humor and really confident, and I started falling in love with him, which I didn't mean to do. And then at some point he told me that he liked me. I was like, yeah, I like you too. But I really had to think through, like he met all the criteria of what I would look for in a guy who I wanted to marry. The only thing that, was maybe an issue was that he didn't have cheekbones and he had hearing aid. And he likes to be the center of attention, and he's loud and draws attention to himself. And I am the middle child and the sibling of someone with special needs, so I kind of prefer not to have all that attention and just, stay out of the way, don't cause trouble. But it was also something that I really admired about him was his confidence, and I realized that everything that he went through growing up with Treacher-Collins syndrome and looking different really is what, made him the amazing man that he is, who I fell in love with and ended up marrying. So Dwayne and I got married and lived happily ever after. We had 2 kids, and our first daughter, Chloe, did not have Treacher-Collins syndrome, but our second daughter, Ariasha, did, and hearing her diagnosis was really hard, because I hadn't taken into consideration the sibling aspect, being a sibling myself. We knew Dwayne had Treacher-Collins syndrome, there's a chance that our kids could have it, and we were okay with that, and I grew up with a sister in a wheelchair, and so we knew this world of hospitals and doctors and everything, and we're like, we're okay with that, we can handle that as parents. But when I got Ariasha's diagnosis, it was actually after the ultrasound, and Dwayne and I were on a walk with some friends, and the midwife called and was like, it looks like she might have Treacher-Collins syndrome. And I was watching our friends' 2 daughters play together, along with my daughter, and just like, oh, soon we'll see our 2 daughters playing together, and it's going to be so cute and wonderful. So I really just hurt for Chloe, since I was a sibling, just being like, oh, like she didn't get a choice. You know, she of course wanted a sister because she always wants a friend to play with, but you know, she didn't know that having a sister might include Treacher-Collins syndrome, and it wasn't something, you know, it wasn't something that any of us could control. But still, it was like, oh, I wouldn't have chosen this life for you. But at the same time, it was like, okay, well, everything I went through as a sibling made me who I am, so she's gonna be okay too. I'll be okay. So my husband Dwayne has Treacher-Collins syndrome, which affects the development of facial bones. So he's missing cheekbones and ears, and he wears a hearing aid. And our younger daughter was born with fully formed outer ears, but she doesn't have an eardrum, so she ended up needing a hearing aid as well, which is a bone-anchored hearing aid. And Dwayne's is surgically implanted. He has like a little screw magnet in his skull, and he just snaps his hearing aid on. But kids can't have that surgery because their skull bone is not thick enough yet, so they need a headband to hold their hearing aid on. So we got our cute little toddler with her $6,000 hearing aids and headband from the hearing aid company, but insurance only covers one headband, and they're very hospital and medically looking. They're very industrial headbands, not super cute, and plus you have to pick what color you want to have on your kid's head, like for life, basically is how it felt. Like, this is the one color headband you're gonna wear all the time. So I obviously wanted more options, and I was in all the Facebook groups for moms of kids who have hearing aids, and started noticing they have cute headbands, and they said, oh yeah, we just make our own, you know, there's YouTube videos and stuff, and you can figure out how to make your own, which in the midst of getting a diagnosis of hearing loss, like it's a kind of an overwhelming learning curve for a few days or weeks or whatever. So then to throw in there, like, yeah, just go make your own headband. You're like, I'm so overwhelmed by everything right now. Like, can't someone just make a headband for me? But no. So I ended up buying lots of supplies to make headbands, and my husband is an entrepreneur, so every time I make cute things for my kids, like tutus or whatnot, he's always like, you should make lots of them and sell them. So I'm like, why would anyone buy my tutus when there's 50,000 other ones on Etsy? But this was something that, you know, I couldn't find any headbands for hearing aids on Etsy or Amazon or any of those places, or for this particular style of hearing aids at least. So it's like, all right, I'm going to figure out how to make headbands, and then I'm going to start a business and sell headbands. So that is what ended up happening. And that's how I became the Baja Mama on Facebook and Instagram, running the Baja Boutique on Etsy, selling custom headbands and accessories for Baja and Ponto hearing aids. And I'm the only one in North America who does that. So it ended up being a big full-time job that I have now. And Dwayne really encouraged me in my confidence, because I don't think I said this yet, but I was super insecure growing up and in the shadows and preferred to stay that way. He's super confident, so he really helped me to grow in my confidence. So he's like, all right, you know, if you're starting a business, like, position yourself as a thought leader, be the expert, you know, learn as much as you can, be the one who can answer people's questions. So I went from asking lots of questions on the Facebook groups to when I saw people asking the same questions over and over and I knew the answer, I could answer the question, and then I started writing blog posts answering the questions. And another thing that I did actually writing the blog post was I would just ask questions and kind of take a poll from people. Because one of the questions that a lot of people ask is like, well, what do you do when someone says, like, what's wrong with your kid or why do they look like that? So I actually asked that question and got a lot of people's feedback, and then from that wrote a blog post and, you know, a variety of options of things to say and ideas. So that's always fun to, I don't know, gather lots of people's ideas, not just my own ideas. Yeah, so my lovely husband Dwayne, who also has a hearing aid, refused to learn sign language when he was a child. And I wanted to normalize that for my daughter, so I would try to expose her to sign language as much as possible, as well as, you know, other people who had hearing aids, and just to help her, you know, feel normal. And maybe realizing that, oh, my mom bought all these books with kids who have wheelchairs, I'm going to buy books with kids who have hearing aids and who use sign language, so my daughter will see this as normal. But I couldn't find any books of kids who had facial differences or the hearing aid that she has. So they had other styles of hearing aids, and of course she's like 2 years old, 2.5 years old, so she'd look at the book and be like, that's not what my hearing aids look like, they did it wrong. So like, okay, well, and of course my husband's like, you're a blogger, like, why don't you just write our story? And our daughter there'll be a book for all the kids who have facial differences and hearing aids that can see themselves in a story. So I didn't really do anything. I had a blog post that I kind of turned into a story, that after like 2 years, I finally got it illustrated and was like moving towards like, okay, we're actually going to publish this. It took 3 years of me moving really slowly because I was busy with a toddler and a headband business. And then our family was featured on the Born Different TV show, and we realized that we have a much bigger message for a bigger audience and more than just facial differences and hearing aids. So like, well, how can we include more kids in this story? So I actually started over with a whole different book, which is called Wonderfully Different, Wonderfully Me, and it features a diverse group of children and celebrates each child's unique strength and promotes inclusion, acceptance, and friendship. And so we had a variety of characters, which as I'm writing, it's like, okay, well, how do you choose who does what and what they look like and what do they like to do? And I wanted each character to say an affirmation statement. That way, as people are reading it, they're speaking that over themselves, over their child. You know, I'm confident, I am brave, I'm strong, things like that. But I'm like, how do I decide who does what? And so I just started reaching out to the people who I knew. So I started with my sister, who was in a wheelchair, but at this point she's walking, so it'd be rude to put her back in a wheelchair. So I was like, okay, well, how about someone with a service dog? So I have my sister, and I asked her, what do you like doing? What words do you use to describe yourself? And then I started talking to various parents of kids that we knew, and just asked them, what words do you use to describe your kids? What do your kids like doing? And some of them look a lot like the child that we know in real life, and some of the characters are actually a combination of kids. And that is how the story came to life, just based on real people and the things they love doing, and that helped us be like, oh, this kid likes Lego, that kid likes Lego, let's play together and let's have these guys on the trampoline. And yeah, so that is how the book came together. So, and along with that, it's also important to include the sibling, because I'm the forgotten sibling, and I did not want my one daughter is in the book, definitely, and like, well, I want both of my daughters to be in the book. So Chloe is in here as the super sibling, helping out her little sister. Right there. My beautiful little girls helping teach her sister sign language, because Chloe loved sign language, and I did an online sign language class that she kind of did with me and learned a lot. And so she and I know more sign language than Dwayne and Ariasha, but oh well. Another fun thing is that Ariasha is doing this instead of this because she had a really hard time. She still has a hard time doing this. And she was recently diagnosed with dyspraxia, developmental coordination disorder. So it's actually really hard for her to make her fingers do what they're supposed to do. So it's like, wow, I have a whole bunch of kids with a whole bunch of differences. I didn't label them, so it's not like this kid has autism or whatever. You're like, this kid just has a lot of energy. So I have had kids like go through and ask like, okay, well, what is the name of this kid's diagnosis? And it's like, well, this girl, she doesn't have any hair, so she could have cancer, or she could have alopecia, where kids just don't grow hair. So I just kind of left it broad so kids can see themselves, whether they look like the character in the story, or they like to play with the same activities like Lego and things like that, or if they connect with the word confident, brave, strong. It's kind of almost mix and match. Who do you look like? What words do you like? What things do you like doing? And I just thought it was really cool that I even showed dyspraxia, and I didn't even know what that was. I had to Google it. I'm like, wow, cool. I've showed disabilities that I didn't even know existed. And I've had families reach out to me and be like, oh, my daughter, I saw her in the story with the girl who was quiet and shy, because this lady's daughter had selective mutism, which I had to Google that. But I guess it's just kind of like a fear and inability to speak in certain situations. So she's quiet and shy. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I've never heard of that, but it's really cool that people can see their children and see themselves in the story with disabilities I didn't know existed. Wonderfully Different, Wonderfully Me is the first book in the Wonderfully Me book series, which can be used in homes and classrooms to promote diversity, inclusion, and friendship. And some future books include Dwayne's story, Where's My Ears? The stories all the times that he's lost his ears. And we're going to write our family story, and we can write stories about the different characters in the book. And my daughter Chloe is 9 years old, and she is an author, so she will write lots of stories as well. She wants to write chapter books, so we'll see what she writes. We'll at least have a book of short stories by her at some point in the future. Yeah, so something that was really important for me was the illustrations. I wanted the kids to be cartoon character-ish, but they also needed to be able to show, like the little girl who has Down syndrome, like you need to be able to see that. So they need to look, not super cartoony, look normal human enough to see the actual differences, because I don't actually say in there, like, my daughter doesn't have cheekbones. Like, you can just see that there's a dip, like dark spots there. So I just had to find a really good illustrator, Larentu, who could show all those differences for me. And then we also gave every character a butterfly because I love butterflies. Butterflies are just a symbol of transformation and hope. Starts out as a caterpillar and becomes a beautiful butterfly and can fly. So each character has their own butterfly, so there's a fun little game throughout the book where you can find her butterfly and then her butterfly. Because I like butterflies. And I like making books more fun and interesting, that there's extra activities that you can do while you read the book. So my hope is that all children will be able to see themselves in the characters of the story, whether they connect with how the character looks or their personality or the things they enjoy doing, and that all children will be able to see themselves represented in a story. And not only see their differences represented, but see the wonderful things about who they are and who they can become. And then also for children just to be able to see that we're all different, but we're also kind of all normal, and we all have a lot of things in common, and we can, connect over different things that we enjoy doing. And for parents reading the story, I think a lot of them have been really touched that they can see their kids in a story. A lot of them, it's the first time that they've seen their child, so they're all emotional, like, I saw my kid in a story, finally. You can purchase your copy of Wonderfully Different, Wonderfully Me at wonderfullymebooks.com. That is the only place that you can get the hardcover book. The paperback book will be available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the places that you buy book, but hardcover is exclusively available on my website, wonderfullymebooks.com. And you want hardcover because my kids sleep with their books in their bed because they love their books so much. So they have stacks of books all over their beds, and the paperbacks don't survive very long, so